All right, so today we're continuing on with chapter 5. We're working with discovering the angle sum theorem. So this is a little bit of an activity that I will be demonstrating and you can follow along. You have a blank triangle on your paper. I have one that is labeled angle 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to show how we have our angle sum for our triangle. So what I'm going to do with these three angles is I'm going to cut them out. Doesn't matter how I cut them. I'm not doing anything with this piece at all. I'm only using the little pieces that I do have. And what I'm going to do is show you that I can actually put these angles together and I can figure out the sum of the triangle. This will work for any triangle. So here I put the angles together. I really hope you can see that I put them together. And what's really interesting about it is that when I put them together, they create this straight line, if I can draw it straight. They create a straight line every single time. Better than I do. So here's that straight line. Again, I'm going to put the angles right on top of it. And from our previous knowledge in a prior chapter, we know the measure of a straight angle. A measure of a straight angle is 180 degrees. So a triangle, the sum of a triangle, because when I take those apart and create that straight line, when I put the three together, our triangle is always going to be 180 degrees, no matter what. So you can see underneath I have the completed triangle. Again, doesn't matter which order is your 1, 2, or 3. When I add up all three angles, the sum is always 180 degrees. So that will help us later on when we're determining a missing angle or creating an equation to find an angle. All right, so using that information, we're going to find measure of angle 1 in these two examples, and then we're going to classify it like we did in our previous video. We're classifying by angles. So brief recap, that means we're going to see if it's acute, right, obtuse, or equiangular. So again, you should know those words when they're asking you to classify by angle type. All right, so here we have our triangle and we're looking for angle 1. So to figure out angle 1, I'm going to create an equation. So I'm going to say 78 plus 31. Now, sorry for the typo, 31 plus x, I'm going to call this x, equals 180 degrees. So again, my angle 1 is my unknown, so I'm calling it x. So I'm going to add my like terms, and here that's my constant. And when I add them up, I get 109. And now I'm going to subtract 109 from both sides. So that means the measure of angle 1 is 71 degrees. So now looking at my triangle, I know that this angle is 71. I'm going to put that on my picture. So now I know all three angles. All three angles are 71, 78, and 31. Based on that, how would I classify it? So all the angles are under 90 degrees, so that makes it an acute triangle. All right, we're going to do the same process again for the second example. So here we have our two angles given and our last one that is unknown. So I'll show a different way to figure out the missing angle. So here we have 40 and 30. So I'm going to add them together. And that equals 70. I'm going to subtract 70 from 180, leaving me with 110. So the measure of angle 1 equals 110 degrees. So notice I made the first one more algebraic. The second one I did not. Either one is acceptable. Just knowing that all three angles together make 180. You're going to use 180 in either way of solving your missing angle. So you do need to be aware that you're going to use that number. All right, now that we know that the missing angle is 110, we have all three angles, 40, 30, and 110. Based on those angle measurements, what would we classify our triangle to be? Would it be acute, right, obtuse, or equiangular? Since we have one angle greater than 90 and less than 180, we have an obtuse triangle. All right, so now we're going to move forward and talk more about another angle. We're going to talk about the angles just like we did before, finding that missing angle. This time they're just not going to call it angle 1. They're just going to say find the missing angle, and that could be any angle on the diagram. So I'm going to work through the first 3, and then you will complete the second 3. So the very first one, it says to find the measure of angle U. So here I have my 2 given angles. So I have 37 plus 63. I like the second method better, the one that I showed. That's just a personal preference. Again, you can choose either one. So 37 plus 63, that makes it 100. 180 minus 100 gives me 80 degrees. So angle U that's missing is 80 degrees. They again want me to classify my triangle. So I like to put that information on the diagram so I can see all 3 angles. All 3 angles are under 90 degrees, making this an acute triangle. All right, the next one. The first thing I see is I only see one number. So here's 46. They want me to find angle B, so I'll put a question mark there. And then angle C is a box. Remember that this box means 90 degrees. I do like to put a reminder for myself that it's 90 degrees, so I'll fill that in. So now I have the 2 angles I'm going to add. So here is 46 plus 90. So when I add them together, we get 136. And now again, I'm subtracting from 180. When I do, I get 44 degrees. Filling that in on my diagram. So now I have all 3 angles. We have one right angle, so right away I can classify this triangle as a right triangle. Right, and now we're going to look at the last example. So here we have 36 degrees and 51 degrees. Again, add them together. So we should have 87 when we add them together. The next step is we're going to subtract from 180. And when I do, I get 93. Again, big takeaway from here, besides the equation, is really making sure you're labeling your diagram. It does help tremendously. All right, so now that we know we have 93, what type of triangle do we have? And in this case, that 93 is greater than 90, so we have an obtuse triangle. All right, so I would like you to try the next 3 on your own, finding the missing angle and classifying by its angle value afterwards. So again, remember we're classifying it on all 3 angles, not just the one you're finding. So keep that in mind. All right, so now let's look at the next problem. We're going to find the measure of angle K. So I know that I have 2 angles equal right here, and when I do add them, that is 120. So this is going to be 180 minus 120, which is 60. This is a special triangle. This is our equiangular triangle. All the angles are congruent. So I can actually put a curve marking there to show that it's going to be 60. I could also write 60 if I wanted to. The curve marking does that for me though. So now I already gave it away that this is equiangular. Remember, equiangular means all angles are congruent. Now, once you see you already have two 60s, the third one's gonna be 60. So this actually required no work, but there's no reason why you didn't have to show work. So again, vocabulary really is key to make the problem go a lot smoother. All right, now we have our next problem here. We actually have two congruent angles again. However, they're not 60. So we're gonna have to do a little more work for here. So 35 plus 35 equals 70. Subtract that from 180. And that is 110. So again, label that here and put it on my diagram. 110 is that angle that I'm going to be looking at. It's greater than 90, so we have an obtuse triangle. And then our last one. Here we have 53 degrees and 77, so we're adding them together. So 53 plus 77. And then we're going to take 180 and subtract. And we get 50. Looking at all three angles, we can see that they are all less than 90. So here we have an acute triangle. Right, so this is still tying in from our vocabulary from our last lesson and finding out our missing angle on the interior. Right, moving on, still working with angles. Now we're actually increasing the level of difficulty. Before we were just solving for an angle, this time we're solving for x. This is where you're going to need to make an equation. Remember, your equation will be set equal to 180 because of our triangle sum. Right, so let's look at the first one. I'm going to go right in and set that equation up. So here we have 40 plus 100 plus 2x equals 180. Again, there's that 180 that you have to remember. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So I have 140 plus 2x equals 180. Subtract 140 from both sides. And I have 2x equals 40. So now I divide by 2 and x equals 20. And that's all they wanted to do. We could plug back in to find the missing value if we wanted to. Again, not every problem is going to give you all angles. Remember, we could even use curve markings to help us depending on how the problem is set up. All right, so now let's look at the next one. The next one, we have our three angles. So here we have 99 plus 37 plus, and I'm going to keep the parentheses there, negative x minus 5 equals 180. All right, so now I'm going to combine like terms. So here are my like terms. So positive 99, positive 37, and negative 5. Remember, your signs go with your number to the left. So we want to make sure we keep our signs there. So we have 99 plus 37 minus 5. I have 131 minus x. Do not forget to bring that negative down. Equals 180. So now I'm going to subtract 131 from both sides. And I have a negative x equals 49. Remember, we are not done here. We never solve for a negative variable. We solve for positive. So we are going to divide or multiply by negative 1 to flip our sign, and x equals negative 49. All right, let's look at the next problem, number 3. I'm going to put a star on this problem. So looking at this problem, this one can be solved two different ways. So here I see that I have what should be an equiangular triangle. That means every angle here should be 60 degrees. I know that because two of them are already 60, meaning the third has to be 60. So I can set up a short equation or a long equation. If I know my vocabulary right off the bat, I can set up an easier equation. I can say negative 12 plus 9x equals 60. That's the shorter equation. Or I can write my longer equation. I'm going to write that one up here by the star. I can write 60 plus 60 plus negative 12 plus 9x equals 180. Again, either of these two equations will bring you to the same solution, but this one just looks so much nicer to deal with. Again, either one's acceptable though. I'm going to work with the bottom one. No matter what I get, will still be the same solution for the top. So here I'm adding 12 to both sides. So that I have 72 divided by 9, and we get 8. A lot less steps in this one. All right, so I would like you to try 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and then we'll go over them. All right, let's look at number 4. So number 4, we have 36 plus 46 plus 2 minus 3x equals 180. Again, we're going to combine like terms. I'm going to underline them here. So here we have 36 plus 46 plus 2, which is 84. Minus 3x equals 180. So we're going to subtract that, 84 from both sides. So I have negative 3x equals 96. Again, don't forget to bring your negative down. Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And x is going to be negative 32. All right, number 5. So number 5, we have 71 plus 50 plus 6x minus 1 all equal to 180. So again, combining like terms. I really do like underlining or highlighting or circling my like terms to make it easier for me so I know I didn't forget one. So again, 71 plus 50 minus 1. So 120 plus 6x equals 180. Subtract 120 from both sides. And we get 60. And then x equals 10. We divided. All right, last one. Last one, I'm going to put a star on this one. So in this problem, the first thing is I see we have a right angle. So you should know that there is a 90 involved in this problem. All right, so now to create our equation, we have 45 plus 90 plus 8x plus 21 equals 180. So again, combine like terms. So I have 45 plus 90 plus 21. So 156 plus 8x equals 181. So I'm going to subtract 156 from both sides. So 8x equals 24, making x equal 3. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do the last problem on this page together. This is a little bit of a word problem. So again, make sure you're paying attention to what they're saying. We're going to create expressions to help us create an equation. So here it says, in a right triangle, the measure of one acute angle is twice the sum of the measure of the other acute angle, and 30. Find the measure of each acute angle in the right triangle. So they're telling you you have a right triangle. So right off the bat, you should know that you have 3 angles and one of them is 90. Right, so I'm actually going to write angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. I'm going to make angle 3 the 90 because that's our last angle. We don't need to really do anything with that right now. So again, I like to reread this to myself to help me. So it says, the measure of one acute angle is twice the sum of the measure of the other acute angle and 30. So that means the very first angle that we're working with is simply x. It says the measure of one acute angle is twice the sum of the measure of the other acute angle and 30. So going back here, that other acute angle, that's your x. The word and. So the word and, what would I think to do with the word and? Is that going to be add, subtract, multiply, divide? So and would be to join together, so that would be addition. So again, going back, the measure of one acute angle is twice the sum. So I know that that's a 2. So twice the sum of the measure of the other acute angle and 30. So watch how I write this part. So here it's going to be twice the amount of the other angle and 30. So twice the amount means the other angle and 30 are added together. And we're going to be multiplying that twice, meaning it's not going to be 2x plus 30, it's 2 times x plus 30. So then we have all our expressions we need to figure out our triangle. Again, this is a little bit of a word puzzle. You really need to make sure you're taking your time with it and taking it piece by piece. So what I'm going to do now is set up my equation. So I have x plus 2 times x plus 30 plus 90 equals 180. And then we're going to simplify and solve. The very first thing I do is my distributive property. So I have x plus 2x plus 60 plus 90. Do not forget when you distribute, it's every term, not just to one term, it's every term. So now we're going to combine like terms. So here I have 3x plus 150 equals 180. Right, and because I wrote so big, I have to push it over here. So I have 3x equals 30, making x equal 10. Now, if they just wanted x, we would be done. What they would like us to do is to plug in for our values and figure out the measure of each angle, meaning angle 1 is 10, because I've just plugged in, so it would be 10 degrees. And then my second angle, I'm going to plug that 10 in here. So 10 plus 30 is 40. 40 times 2 is 80. So again, I plug in. All right, and we'll see more like this later on. All right, moving on to the exterior angles is another rule we're going to work with. So far we saw the sum of the interior, and now we're going to talk about the exterior. So I did have another cutout here just so you're aware, so I will be cutting in a second. So what I want to show you is the very first thing that I see. We know that A, B, and C make 180 degrees. We already discovered that in the beginning of this video. What we also know is look at C and D. What is the relationship of C and D? So C and D, I hope you guys can see. That's my angle, so I'm going to erase that, sorry. So angle C and angle D are a linear pair. And we know a linear pair is 180 degrees. Now, I'm going to cut apart a little bit of my diagram. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to cut off angle A and B. Because I'm not breaking up my linear pair. So again, you can see angle C and D are still there. Now I have angle A and B cut off in my hands. Now I'm going to actually show, like we did before, if I put them here, remember A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, they made my straight line. So that means that A and B, does everyone see how A and B can cover up D perfectly? So D is my exterior angle. So angle D is exterior, simply saying that it's outside of the triangle. I could say that A and B together, so angle A plus angle B, that means together, again, remember, they're equal to angle D. So that means those two interior angles is equal to my exterior angles. So A and B is equal to angle D. Angle C and angle D are 180. We have a lot of information going on here. All right, so I'm going to kind of move this away. So you have that blank copy that you could have filled in. All right, so I filled in the information of exactly what we're talking about. It says the measure of the exterior angle. So again, this is my exterior, is equal to the sum of the measure of the remote interior. Now I'm going to put a star. Those are my remote interior angles. So if I add up those two, it gives me the sum of my exterior angle. And we're going to see what that looks like in my next example. So in example 1, they want me to find the measure of angle 1. So the measure of angle 1, what I can do is I can add up these two angles. So 53 plus 53 equals 106. So the measure of angle 1 equals 106 degrees. Now we could have done this the long way as well. So that was the remote. So that's an or. So remember we talked about this relationship here. We could say here, this is 106. I could find this missing angle right here. So I can say 106, take away from 180, is 74. That means that this blue angle right here is 74. So I have 180 minus 74, and that is 106. Again, what that means is I used a linear pair over here for this example. It's a lot going on. So that means I had to add these two together, subtract from 180 to get this missing angle, then use my linear pair vocabulary to then find the exterior angle, when I could have just added the two remote to get my answer. All right, so now let's look at our examples down below. So in number 1, we want to find this angle right here, QRX. So remember when we read it, it's QRX, R is in the middle, that's our vertex, that's what we're looking for. So we're adding up our remote interior angles. So that is 49 plus 80, and that should give me 129. All right, so I would like you to try number 2 and 3, and then I'll go over it, so pause your screen. All right, so now number 2, we want to find VUX, so again, that's out here. So we're adding 53 plus 103, and that is 156. Number 3, here we want to find HFX, so HFX, again, out here. You should be able to identify the angle when it's being named, so make sure you're following that through. So 39 plus 26. And we get 65. All right, and we're going to continue on a little more with this. So I just wanted to show a little bit with algebra involved. So here we are going to create an equation. As you remember, we said the two interior is equal to the exterior. So to create an equation for this, we could say 40 plus 5x plus 15 is equal to 8x minus 5. So again, how did I create this equation? This is my remote interior. I think of remote interior as like my remote control. It's far away. So the angles that are furthest away from the exterior angle. And here's my exterior angle. And remember, we set them equal because it's the two remote interior angles equal to the exterior angle. So then we're going to simplify. We're going to combine our like terms. So I have 5x plus 55 equals 8x minus 5. Now, how do we solve this equation? I'm going to keep the variable on the left-hand side. So to do that, I am going to subtract 8x from both sides. So here I have negative 3x plus 55 equals negative 5. Do not forget to bring that negative down. So now I'm going to subtract 55 from both sides. So now I have negative 3x equals negative 60. When I divide, I'm going to have x equals 20, positive 20. Negative divided by negative is a positive, right? And that's my final answer. All right, so we're going to try some more on our own in a little bit. If you have any questions, please let me know. Talk to you guys soon.